After living in different parts around the world and analyzing how different cultures view race, I've come to the conclusion that America is living in this weird paradox where we are so performative about our fight towards racism, yet it still feels like one of the most racist places on earth.
Race relations have certainly dominated the headlines this year with tensions between African Americans and police.
As a white officer pressed his knee into the neck of a black man.
Today I want to break down why does racism in America feel so different compared to other countries in the world. You're probably wondering why this random Asian guy is talking about this. I am Chinese Filipino and I was born in Los Angeles, spent a few years in Colombia, so I speak Spanish to a C1 level. I spent some time living in Asia and now I'm living here in Poland in Europe. And I speak multiple languages. Polish is going to be my 5th language. I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Gabriel Valley. If you know anything about that area, you know that it's predominantly dominated by both Asians and Hispanics, primarily Mexicans. When I was growing up, some of my best friends were Mexicans. A lot of my piano students were also Mexicans. I got to really live and experience what that culture was like. And it gave me an appreciation for Latinos in general. And that's why I wanted to go to Colombia in the first place and learn Spanish, because I loved Latin culture so much. And this is what true unity should be about, right? Like a healthy appreciation for other groups and races and being able to talk about topics without fear of being canceled so we can have a better understanding of each culture. This, I think, is the actual way forward and how we can further improve race relations anywhere in the world. So America is unique compared to other countries because on any form that you have to fill out, they always ask you for your race. And this race thing is quite limiting because it's only white, black, Latino, Asian/Pacific Islander, or other. Now, if you travel the world, you realize that white can mean a lot of different things. For example, the Slavs are different than the Germans, which are different from the Brits. They're all technically white people, but their cultures are completely different. And even the term Asian is quite problematic because Asia makes up over half of the world's population. Russia is technically Asia. The Middle East is technically Asia as well. The Caucasus Mountains. It's not just people that look like me. And because we have to fill out our forms this way, race is the first thing that really people notice about you in America. And we can never fully be American. I'm always gonna be Asian American. My Mexican buddy's gonna be Latino American, Black American, White American. I really noticed this because I lived in Colombia for a few years, which is one of the least racist countries I've ever been to in my life, actually. And living here in Poland, there's a lot of people from other races that were born here in Warsaw. Because they grew up here and they speak Polish, they're considered just as Polish as anybody else. But I think in America, and maybe this is just a lot of Western countries in general, it feels that people make their race or their gender or their sexual orientation their whole entire identity. And this is why people get so heated about these topics, because when somebody is attacking ideas about race or things that you identify with, you feel like it's an attack on yourself. And that's why people are so intensely connected to these topics. And there's this weird mentality from America that because you are so associated with your group identity, if you are of a certain group, you're expected to act, behave, and vote in a certain way. And if you don't act like everybody else is acting, you're ostracized as an outcast. What makes the US unique is that it was a country founded by immigrants. So the connection to national history and pride hits a lot different than it does in other countries. I'm living in Poland right now, and one of the things that I admire about them the most is their sense of nationalism, is how much they love their country and are willing to stand up for their country. Because if you look at Poland's history over the last 1,000 years, they've had so many different versions of struggles, their neighbors trying to conquer their lands. Country was completely wiped off the map for 123 years and they couldn't even speak the language. And communism was here 30 something years ago, very recently. That's why they are so proud to be Polish. We don't have that in America really, because a lot of people that move there are 2nd, 3rd, or 4th generation immigrants. So even though we culturally may speak American, we grew up with American media, I am always deep down aware that I'm not 100% American. I'm always gonna be Asian first and then American. Racism is tricky because I think that word should actually be tribalism. People are willing to fight because of something stupid as a sport. It's not even real. Let's say you are a white person in America and you go to Japan. You realize really quickly that people make judgments on you because of your race. This is just a natural part of the human biology. And this tribal instinct that we have inside has survival reasons for it. Back in the day when we were living in tribes, if you see an outsider, specifically a man, come into your group, you don't know their intentions. You don't know if they want to help you or if they want to take your women or if they want to kill you. So this tribalism that we have towards other groups is completely normal. And that's why I believe that the best way to deal with this is not to say that it doesn't exist, but to accept that this is a natural part of human biology and find out ways how we can move forward understanding this part about ourselves. I don't think it's really a race issue, it's more of a class issue, because if you travel all over the world, every country has their version of classism to a certain extent. But what makes US unique is that certain classes are associated with specific races. Nigerian and Indian immigrants are able to make it in America. Is it really a skin color issue, or is it more of a culture issue? In my personal opinion, it's a culture issue. What I always found interesting is that the children of immigrants, no matter what country they came from, all seem to have very similar experiences. We all have a strong focus on academics, working hard, stability, being successful, because this is the mentality of immigrants in any country that you go to, and those values get passed on onto our kids. So I think the main issue with racism in the US is that it's a lot more covert. And this is something that I've been observing for a while. Every time you have a company that openly supports Palestine or the LGBT community or Black History Month, do you really think these companies care about these causes? I think it's more that they're trying to sell more products. But I think you can even make the same metaphor for people. How many people do you personally know that say they believe these causes but don't do any actionable steps to help these causes? They just try to show the world that they care by putting a black square on their profile picture. And this concept is called luxury beliefs, which was coined by Rob Henderson. So the concept behind luxury beliefs are ideas or opinions that signal a person's social status but come with little or no personal cost. And often the negative consequences are generally felt by more marginalized and lower income groups. One of the examples of this is saying defund the police, which is a position that a lot of privileged liberals have. But if you live in an area with high crime, taking away police presence is only going to make it a lot more dangerous. And a lot of times these people will use all of the buzzwords, all of the right hashtags, but if you look at their lives, the people that they hang out with and they associate with, their groups don't really have any real diversity. If you guys are enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. So I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, and I remember TV shows and movies back then featured people of different races without making race primary selling point of that show. I remember watching Static Shock as a kid, Jake Long, American Dragon, and a perfect example of this is Rush Hour.
I'm Detective Carter. Do you speak any English?
Rush Hour can never be made in today's environment. Those movies are so racist to Asian and Black people, but the funny thing is that Asians and Blacks all agree we love that movie. And because we were able to make fun of each other in good fun, it brought us a lot closer together. Nowadays, it feels like the movies are just like, they try to take existing IPs and just swap around the race and pretend that they're actually doing something. Let's make The Little Mermaid black. Let's make this King movie about a woman. Like all this BS. And it doesn't feel real. It feels like people got together and they're like, we need something now so we can please the Blacks. They want a Little Mermaid, let's just make her black. And everyone's just like, the average person is pretty sick of it because we can see through all of this performative BS. As someone who's like a minority, I just want an equal shot, an equal opportunity just like anybody else to be able to prove myself based on merit, not because of my race or where I came from. This to me is a true marker of equality. And this is why I'm heavily against affirmative action as well, because affirmative action actually is quite racist. Yes, it may help underprivileged people like Blacks or Latinos, but it actively punishes people like Asians. Because of our culture and what we're taught in-house, we tend to do better academically and in the career environment because a lot of the things in our culture teach us to be that way. And I don't think that's fair. So I think the biggest factor in all of this is actually the media's effect on how we view race in the US. So something that I notice on the mainstream media is that they love to sensationalize every time there is a Black victim and a white police officer. And what is troubling to me is that they tend to focus more on the race of the people involved rather than the actual crime committed. I think George Floyd is a perfect example of this. If you look at any news outlet talking about George Floyd, it's always Black man killed by white police officer. They don't really talk about any of the charges that this guy may have had in the past. Why did they stop him in the first place? It seems like the crime that the guy commits, which is extremely important, becomes secondary to their racial identity. And this is problematic for a lot lot of reasons. Because it teaches certain communities, such as the Black community and the Latino community, to be afraid of the police because of their race, not necessarily because of crimes or bad actions that they might commit. I'm an outsider, so I don't really have a horse in the race, but I understand why the police would target certain demographics, especially if certain demographics commit crime at a way higher proportionate rate compared to other races. Now, I'm not saying that's okay to justify the racism. I'm not saying it's okay justifying all those instances of police brutality which are real. So as a result, it does feel like society is trying to overcorrect by feeding us all of this PC garbage. And you can sense it, right? Like when you watch a Netflix show, every single show for some reason has to have a Black person who's also gay to fulfill all of these quotas, and people are sick of it because it feels like it doesn't really come from a place of genuine appreciation. And now we're in an environment where instead of being able to speak openly with our peers, we are now forced to walk on eggshells for fear of being canceled, and that doesn't make things better. It just makes people hide better. And if you look at societies around the world, anything that you try to suppress only becomes more intense. So that's why my approach is that we should be able to talk about race issues openly. Hating people because of their skin color is racist. Having difficult conversations about race is not racist. And I think a lot of times people like to mix the two. And it's even gotten to the point where some people genuinely believe that you can't be racist to white people. I saw this when I was in university, and coming from a university that had a lot of minorities, white men were the enemy for everything. The white male patriarchy. Oh, you can't have any opinions because you are a cis white man. And rather than trying to have honest dialogue and conversations where we can get to the bottom of these issues, we are being muzzled and forced not to talk about these things. We're being told how to speak, how to joke, and this, in my opinion, is not progress. It's censorship, and it leads to a lower level of understanding in the general population about these issues. So what does real unity look like? In my opinion, being able to joke freely with people from other cultures shows a higher level of understanding in those cultures rather than what we try to do in America. We try to pretend that everybody's the same, we're all equal, race doesn't matter, when it totally does. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Am I crazy? Please share your thoughts down below. I highly recommend you guys watch this video next, and I will see you on the next one.